Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Fire and Earth podcast. I am your co-host, Kathy Gruber.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I just want to have to do something different every time, right?
Great.
Maybe, or whatever.
Yeah, we don't know. You'll have to tune in to see.
I don't know. Well, and you're going to have to turn the page and read the next part of it, because today we're going to talk about books in a way, right? But thinking about the next chapter of your life. And it's interesting because I know one of the things when I was a kid, I wanted to be an author, right? Write novels. And I've written, a couple of books. Kathy, you've written more than I have, but what's interesting is it always kind of comes back to some of that too. And what's interesting, because we want to talk about, how do you want to write this chapter of your life? Because really that's what we are. We're putting together and creating a story, much like we're writing a novel. And so what do you want the next chapter or this chapter of your life to look like? So we figured we just kind of jump in because, hey, Kathy and I, we've got new chapters in our lives, recently. And, for you to kind of think about that as well on what do you want it to look like?
Yep. Absolutely. And, it's interesting. We've now moved into, God, what month is it? April, May, maybe by the time we're showing this. And, January is the resolutions and I want to start something new. And, I showed up to my first day of my old yoga class and it was packed. There wasn't even a place to put my mat. And I'm like, oh, I fucking hate January because everyone thinks they're going to be all fit. And then by, the end of February, you're like back in your normal spot. And there's like 10 people there. But remembering that at any point in our lives, we get to make a different choice. We get to start something new. We get to close off a chapter. You don't have to wait till the end of the year or the beginning of the year or your birthday or, to start something new. And I was just telling Jason, you off the air that
Me?
yeah.
Oh, yes,
I'm sharing with the folks at home that I'm done with school. And so I just finished my psychedelic integration coaching program. Psychedelic integration coach Kathy here at your service. And that's a new chapter for me. And I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that into my existing business, how to expand my reach, how I want those skills and those new things to fit into my life now and my business now. So I have turned a page and I've got a whole blank book of paper in front of me and I get to create what's next. And I'm not sure yet. Like I'm working through that. I'm doing a lot of journaling and a lot of writing. I'm going on a journey on next week, a psychedelic journey to kind of help me solidify some of the ideas that I have. So I have turned a page and I'm starting anew.
Well, yeah, and I think it's because it's interesting, like you said, most of the time we tend to think like that, New Year's resolutions. Oh, if I'm going to change, if I'm going to do something different, I have to decide in January, right? And like you said, most people don't keep those New Year's resolutions. Maybe, I mean, you're lucky if they made it all the way to the end of February. Most people, I think, drop out of the gym, the first 2 or 3 weeks. But it's interesting that we don't have to, like you said, we don't have to rely on a particular point in time. In fact, any time during the day, you can choose to turn a page and start new. I like to think of the whole idea of this birth or death and rebirth process all the time. And so it's easy to think about that at night. We lay down, we go to sleep, we die. That person, is in the past. We get to wake up every morning with that fresh, clean slate, fresh piece of paper that we can then choose how we're going to write on it.
Yeah.
And, for the most part, we kind of go through a lot of the same routines. Probably the first part of each page looks about the same. Got up, went to the bathroom, grabbed some coffee or tea or whatever it is, right?
Right.
But we really can decide and change whatever it is that we want to do, right?
Absolutely.
And both of us have kind of gone through some what people call major life things, right? I mean, you went back to school, you just got married, right? I mean, you had some big things in your life. I got divorced, I moved states, I'm in a new relationship, right? And so sometimes they're big things, but sometimes they're littler things
Yeah.
as well. And I think sometimes, for anybody who's actually written anything, sometimes that blank sheet of paper can be pretty scary, right? Because you look at it, and the thing is, it can be anything.
Hmm.
And because it can be anything and there's so many choices, I think sometimes that's what makes it hard. And we get into that freeze kind of position, like, oh,
Yep.
I don't want to make it, I don't want to make a decision because I don't want to put something down on paper, if you will, in
Yep.
my story that I might want to change later.
What if I do it wrong? What if it's not
I do.
perfect? What if it's not right? It's never going to be perfect. Perfect is
Mhm.
the enemy of done. I don't know who said
Well,
that.
and it's interesting because it's our story and
Right.
we get to decide. And so we have to be careful too of letting other people figuratively like reach over and start doodling in our notebook, right? And I had an experience, like that just recently where I was, I'm in a new relationship. This is, another long-term relationship. I've been through, you know, I've spent 30 years of my life in long-term relationships, right? And what's funny is, I'm still learning how to navigate this new relationship, right? We both have, 50 years of experience on our own with other relationships, and now we're trying to figure out, what it looks like for us,
Yep.
right? And so we're doing some things maybe that are a little different or that other people might look at, and one of those is with boundaries on my time, right?
Mhm.
Is that we're together most of the time. We stay home most of the time because we like to be with each other
Yeah.
and we like to set up these boundaries so, we're insulating ourselves from the world. And a lot of people can look at that because I was mentioning, somebody that I know, about setting up some of these boundaries, and I need a little bit of time because it's like, don't call me at 4 o'clock and say, hey, let's go do this at 5. It ain't gonna happen now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, part of it's I'm old and curmudgeony and I prefer to just sit on sit on my porch anyway. But I have somebody else in my life now
Mhm.
to coordinate schedules around, as well. I mean, even because we both work out of the house, there's
Yep.
certain things that we have to kind of coordinate here. That I'm doing a recording like this right
Mhm.
now, which means it's going to be a little noisy in the house, which means she can't do certain things, and the
Yep.
same thing when she has something to do, and so we're trying to figure this all out. And I remember this person that I was talking to has never been married,
Mm.
as far as I know, no significant long-term relationship, at least where they've lived with
Mhm.
another person, right? They might have dated somebody, but they always kind of had their own
Yeah. The
places.
cohabitation part of it.
Cohabitation part. And I remember this person kind of saying, "Oh, well, you have to kind of, let them know what's what, and because if not, then they're just going to kind of take over all your time." And I'm like, well, just a minute.
Not how that works.
That's not how that works, right? And it's like I think I know a little bit about longer term relationships, but I don't at the same time,
Hmm.
right? But the point being is, not to let somebody else come in, like me, drop in this morning and say, "Oh no, Kathy, this is the next chapter you need to write in your book," right? Because that wouldn't be right for me
Mm-mm.
to try to impose my beliefs or my worldview on
Sure.
Kathy.
Hmm.
Um, because, when you're creating art
Hmm.
effectively, right? I don't want to, I want to maybe help inspire
Sure.
or provide some comments or feedback that might
Hmm.
help, because you can see that in the creative process a lot of times where people kind of feed off of each other,
Absolutely.
and
Oh God, absolutely.
and something great comes out of it. But we don't want to let other people write our stories for us.
Absolutely. And, for the most part, you can change your mind. I mean, you and I have both been divorced. We've both been in long-term relationships that ended. We've both moved locations. We've both, it's like you can, other than kids and tattoos, and one of those is negligible. I'll let you figure out which. You can change your mind if you don't like what's happening, and I've coached so many, or just been friends with so many college students who are about to graduate and they are freaking the fuck out. They don't know what they're doing next. And I'm like, I still don't know what I'm doing. Like, you're going to change your mind 700 times. And they're putting, they're putting so much pressure on themselves to make the right decision now. And it's like, but there is no right decision. There's decisions that will unfold into the next thing. And, it's just fascinating to me. And it's like, I want the next chapter of my life to look, I want to do the old work smarter, not harder thing. It's like I love having some time off. And it's so interesting because, I normally work Monday through Friday, 10 to like 4:30 or 5. That's when I see clients. I don't do evenings and weekends anymore. I only do those hours. And school for me was every Thursday from 9 to 11. So I would take Thursday morning off, I'd do class, and then I'd start at 11:30. I'd skip that first 10 o'clock client. And as soon as I realized school was over, I'm like, oh, I can go back to scheduling a 10 o'clock client. Why? Wouldn't it be lovely to have Thursday mornings not start till 11:30? I did it for 10 months. Why do I
not keep
have to
doing
go
it?
back and take that time to go to breakfast with Eric or take a fitness class? He's teaching an aerial fitness class Thursday mornings, or go to breakfast myself, or work around the house, or catch up on marketing, or, why did I fall back into that routine? Oh, got to go right back to it. And I think so often we do that. We fall back into the old chapters rather than realizing, take what you've learned from those and write something new. You don't have to go back to the old ways, especially if they weren't working for you. And I think it's so easy to fall back in that habit. We started watching this weird reality show on Netflix last night. God, I now don't remember what it was called, but they took 5 men and 5 women, matchmaker, I think it's called, and you had to pair up with one of them. And whoever, they start bringing in single people, and then whoever doesn't get paired up, they keep 5 couples on this island. And they're all other reality show people. And I'm not that kind of reality show person, but to me, it's a psychological study, right? And there's one couple who had hooked up before, they've known each other before, and they immediately gravitated back towards each other. And as an audience member, I'm watching the two of them interact, and they trigger each other, and they're nitpicking each other, and they have the way they talk to each other is disrespectful. And this other guy comes in, sweeps her off her feet. He's attractive, he's respectful, he's into her, she's into him, and she goes, I couldn't do that to him. And she leaves this new great guy and goes back to this old pattern of this guy that's kind of a dick. And Eric and I are just watching this going, why? And we paused it and we started talking about that, like falling back into old patterns and falling back into what's comfortable. And, the hell is safer than the hell you don't know. But it was just such an interesting conversation about that, going back to the old ways and how sometimes hard it is to break out of that. It's scary to start that new chapter. That's why that blank page is terrifying for people.
Well, and it is so easy to go back, right? Because even when we feel like we've dealt with something, I mean, I'm seeing that now too. It's like, well, no, I thought I dealt with that, but then something comes back in, or I say something, or I get moody, or I do something, right? And it's like, hold it. Why is that, right? And because I think part of, at least for me too, is it's kind of nice to, there's a concept of erasing your past history, right? In that there's a lot of different levels and layers of that and reasons for doing it. But part of it is so we don't carry forward all this stuff from the past. We don't live in the past as much. We don't carry forward the ego or the shame or some of these things from the past, because the reality is we're only in the present. Yeah, we're thinking about the past, or we're thinking about the future, but we're really only in the present. And so it helps you to really, focus more on the now and not think about the past. And what's interesting is, I mean, you've known me for years now, Kathy, and I look different than when we first met, and I look different than maybe halfway through the time that we've known each other. And sometimes these Facebook memories will pop up and
Oh
it's like,
God.
who is that fat guy? Right? That is not me. And
Mhm.
I look different, I act different, both physically and energetically,
Mhm.
but I don't think of myself as being different necessarily, right?
Mm. Can I tell you how I've seen you change?
Mm. Well, this will be interesting. Outside observation.
So when I met you at that first NSA meeting, you struck me as somebody very intelligent, sort of introverted, but goofy at the same time. Very like I could totally see you as a brother. I got like not a lot of spirituality from you. And over the years, as you and I have known each other, I feel like you've gotten more grounded, more centered, more spiritual, more sort of universe based, um, and just sort of a more evolved being. That's what I've observed with you.
Yes. Right? 'Cause that's part of the story that I'm writing for myself, right? Because it's I mean, I spent a lot of time not concerned with this, or that's why for me it's like a lot of the things that I used to think were important are not
Hmm.
important anymore.
Yep.
Or the things that I'm doing are not what I think I'm doing. And the more that I've, kind of learned that and tried to get rid of some of the past, and just write from now forward,
Mm.
it's a different space, right? And to realize even things like, what would annoy me before, like I'm doing this because this is really important, right? And I don't know, it's not.
Right.
But when I would get, when I get interrupted or stuff, sometimes I want to kind of go back and it's like, hold it, time out, corrective experience. Let me think about what am I really doing now?
Hmm.
And so when I do things like rub my partner's feet, I'm I'm doing that, but I'm not doing that,
Hmm.
right? And so, for me, a lot of the chapter is more peace, more connection,
Hmm.
with other people, with everything around us, um, and not chasing, not hustling, not doing some of the stuff. I mean, it's like it's the desires that I had when I was a young man are not there
Yeah.
anymore,
Yeah.
right? The fame and fortune, mm,
Right.
right? It's kind of gone. It still comes up. I
Sure.
mean, don't
We
get
still
me
have to pay
wrong.
our bills. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'm a normal person, but it's
really?
different. Yeah, yeah, I am, right? I mean, as you just attested to,
Yeah.
as well. And I think that yeah, it's just interesting. And each day, again, it's like, what do I want today to be?
Hmm.
Because again, I mean, imagine if this is all just a dream and the quality of your life depends on the quality of the dreams that you have or you create, you know, why not create something that you want and love?
Absolutely. I agree
As
with you.
opposed to, but like you said, the hell of the known versus the hell of the unknown. We tend to allow ourselves to get pulled back.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. It's easy
instead,
to. Well,
well, yeah.
well, as I say, our brain moves us towards things that we're familiar with. That's just how our brain works.
Mhm.
I have a girlfriend who's back on the dating apps, and she says, Kathy, I swear to God, I've dated the same guy in 7 different sweaters. She keeps picking the same guy, but
But
is
literally the same guy too.
well, no, but for
Oh, okay.
it's the same. I'm like, maybe try a tank top. I don't know. But it's like that's what our brain moves towards. So that's what we went to bed last night, and Eric said, "I'm so glad that we can watch that kind of show." And for us, it's not the drama of it and the person and the sexy people making out. It's the psychological observation, and there's editing, and they're all drunk all the time, and they're gorgeous. But it's like we observe that psychological expression of habit, of ego, of all these things. And also so much of it is the ego states, right? When you get we were talking before we got on the air about this scary dog that's moving in next door. That's very triggering for me. I don't want anything to happen to my cat. There's a reactivity in that, and I was so upset yesterday. I was inconsolable. I understand that's a future pacing. Nothing has happened to the cat. He's sitting right in front of me. The fear of this dog attacking and killing my cat is a horrifying thought to me. So we're going to put things in place to make sure that doesn't happen. And then I have to let it go. I can't sit here 24 hours a day and stare at the cat. We put these things in place and hopefully hope or pray or chant or whatever we do that these things that we put in place work and that things turn out the way we would like them to. They're going to turn out the way they're supposed to, right? It's the we'll see kind of situation.
Yeah, because there's always twists in the stories, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think even when you're writing a book, if it's fiction, especially, right? So it's a story that you're kind of making up. You never quite know where it's going to go.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of pieces to fill in. You might have a general outline, but each day that you sit down and write, or each day that you sit down and live, we get surprised. There's new things that come in that actually make it exciting for us, and sometimes a little challenging. And again, we can if you look at, I always like the analogies from things like art. Is, and whether that's music or sculpture, painting, whatever. And there's some artists who are known that, it's like they just do the same thing over and over and over and over and over and
Right.
over again, right? And so you can look at a piece and it's like, oh, that's so and so, right? Because all of their stuff pretty much looks the same. There's other artists, you look at, and I know when I say Picasso, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, they think of one thing. But over the course of Picasso's career, he did a lot of different things,
inventions and structures,
and he pushed a
amazing.
lot of envelopes and kind of created some new stuff. Same thing with, if you listen to a band like Queen, okay, all of their music sounds different. And yes, Freddie sang lead on most of it, so you can tell it's his voice. But all of the songs are so different because each member of the band kind of wrote songs, and they weren't afraid to do things that were a little bit different. They didn't fit a particular mold.
Yeah.
And so again, as everybody's writing your own story, I mean, you can decide what you want to do. If you want to be like the mass market romance novel that pretty much follows steps A, B, C, D, right? And you can just push out 20 books a year. If that's what you want, if that's the kind of life you want, then you can do that.
Yeah.
If you want to have the same Groundhog Day experience over and over again, you can do that.
Yeah.
If you want something completely different, you can have that too, right? And sometimes it's just about making some choices different than we normally would. I remember the Seinfeld episode where George decides you know this
opposite,
one,
to do everything
opposite of what he normally would do, right? And it gave him good results.
Well, in the Jim Carrey movie Yes Man, where he went to that guru kind of lecture thing, and the guy was like, you need to say yes to everything, and he gives all his money away and he leaves he ends up having this incredible life from saying yes and doing things a different way. So yeah, do things a different way. Or if you're happy with your book, keep writing that chapter. It doesn't have to change. I'm incredibly happy with my relationship, with the house I'm in, other than the dog. With, it's like, I don't want to change that chapter yet. I want to a little bit tweak the chapter of career, and we'll see where it goes. I'm just starting to write it.
Yeah, just remember it's your life. So even if people don't understand, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
It's your life. So
yeah,
there we go.
Cool. All right. We always have such great conversations. I am Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.coach.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, write a new chapter today, and decide what you're going to do, but just keep writing and keep creating the life that you want. See you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. See ya.
See ya.